Hi, my name is Todd Wright. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Progress. Welcome to our webinar, From Data Silos to Unified Insights, the Importance of Connectivity in Business Intelligence. So let's start introducing today's speaker. I'm happy to introduce to you, everyone, Sai Teja Baba. Sai is a Senior Technical Product Manager at Progress. He has over 9 years of experience at Progress in building connectors and connectivity solutions that help organizations connect to any source from anywhere. Sai has authored hundreds of technical articles that help guide customers' data connectivity challenges to make their reporting, ETL, and data analytics easier. His focus on understanding the use cases and challenges faced by customers have helped the Data Direct team build and improve the products to solve organizations' data challenges. With all that said, Sai, I will turn it over to you, and I will be back for the Q&A portion of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I think we'll get started with understanding the data source landscape that organizations have today and why data silos occur and the problems the data silos create in the organizations. Let's look at the data sources landscape in today's organization. Data is generated at multiple places in multiple different applications in today's world, especially in small to large organizations. It could be in the databases, that could be relational databases, NoSQL, in-memory databases, or data warehouses. Again, this could be your application data that is being generated, whoever is using your applications that you have built, and all of that data is being stored in these databases. And you could have your operations data in enterprise applications such as the sales applications like Salesforce or CRMs, HR, marketing applications, legal applications, finance applications, etc. The third type of data could be in files, especially in healthcare industry or financial industry. They still have a lot of data in file format, which they process it and they process it with applications and in ETL processes. And at the end of that, they'll connect to their BI application for better insights into those whatever raw data that they have in these files. Again, these files could be JSON, CSV, and whatever the format that is preferred by that organization. And it could be protocol-based files as well in case of XML. The last one is companies could also be consuming external data through REST APIs or GraphQL APIs, RPC APIs or SOAP APIs. For example, insurance companies or finance companies could be getting their customers' credit scores from different credit bureaus through these APIs. So all of this information, you have it in different systems, and each of these systems don't necessarily talk to each other well. And you end up with data silos. And if you want to get insights from these disparate number of systems, it could be a nightmare. Apart from that, there's also the problem of where the data resides. It could be on cloud, or it could be on premises. And based on where this data is, it could also be a challenge for you to bring all of this data into a single location so that you could run your analytics on this data so that you could get insights for your businesses. And this is also a problem. So let's move on to why we have data silos. The first reason could be legacy technology. Older systems and technologies, they don't integrate well with newer ones, and they can create barriers to data sharing. And it's not only older technologies, I would say it's some of the newer SaaS applications, they really don't gel well with the other applications. So you're essentially having data in multiple silos. I don't think it's just legacy. There's also these newer applications that have this problem. Not every application in the market has a good integration with others so that you could bring in your data. You could have well-formed integrations for better analytics there. The second reason is, as companies grow, they do mergers and acquisitions. And as part of that, the company that is acquiring could have application A, application B, application C, and the company that is getting acquired could have application Y and application Z. And these applications may not be integrated well enough so that you're able to get all of the data into a single location. So you're ending up with data silos for each of the organizations when you're bringing them together. And the other one is size and complexity. As organizations grow, the complexity of managing data increases because you're creating a lot of data and leading to ad hoc processes, especially when you don't have a centralized processes to manage your data, and essentially ending up with siloed data. The next one is organizational structure and culture. Traditional hierarchical structures often lead to departments working independently, creating isolated data pools. One department could be using a certain application, other department could be using certain other application, especially when organizations do not have that central direction on what to use for organization-wide usage. This could lead to fracturing in usage of applications, and you would be ending up in multiple data pools. The last one is lack of data governance and standardization. So without clear policies and standards for data management, as we were speaking about organizational structure, different departments will develop their own methods for collecting and storing data, making it difficult to integrate and analyze the data across the organizations. So these are some of the primary causes of data silos. Let's take a look at the impact of data silos. So when you have data silos, the first impact that you could have is you would have a limited visibility into your organization. So leaders and decision makers may struggle to get a holistic understanding of operations, finance, performance, and this could lead to suboptimal decisions. The other one is reduced collaboration. Data silos hinder cross-departmental collaborations. Teams working in isolation may duplicate efforts or miss out on valuable insights that could be gained from shared data. And that leads to inefficiencies. People may spend significant time searching for data across different systems, reducing productivity. And especially if you're customer-facing organization, in especially like industries like retail, that could lead to poor customer experience. Inconsistent and inaccessible data can lead to fragmented customer experience, and customer service representatives may not have all the necessary information to provide effective support to their customers. And all of this would lead to increased costs. Maintaining multiple isolated data systems can be costly, and it often requires additional resources for storage, management, and keeping the systems up to date, and also have the integrations in place so that you're able to get that unified insights from all of the data. So that's the challenges of data silos today organizations have today. And let's take a look at how we can solve the data silos challenge with Data Direct. And today we'll be focusing on the connectivity solution from Data Direct called Hybrid Data Pipeline. So Hybrid Data Pipeline is a connectivity solution that is able to connect to any data source and is able to provide you a standard way of accessing using a single interface or API. So Hybrid Data Pipeline is a solution that can be deployed on premises or even in the cloud based on wherever you need it. It could also connect to enterprise applications like Salesforce, Dynamics 365, etc. And it can also connect to REST APIs, which you might be consuming from external sources. So what Progress Hybrid Data Pipeline has is a connector called Autonomous REST Connector, using which you would be able to connect to most of the REST APIs in the market. And you don't even have to do coding to get that connectivity. All you have to build is a template where you can describe the REST API that you're connecting to, and you'll be able to connect to that. So with HDP, hybrid data pipeline, you can connect to databases, enterprise applications, REST APIs, and it provides you with a single interface of your preferred choice of connection, like OData REST API, JDBC, or ODBC, based on your preference. And you can use this, create your ETL, where you'd be pulling data from all of these sources into a single data warehouse, like Google BigQuery or Snowflake. Or it could also be used by data scientists, where they can use one of these interfaces to connect to all of the data sources on the left with a single connector and do their mathematical analysis on the data and provide insights on that. Or it could also be used for analytics. You could use this to connect to your Power BI, Tableau, and with a single connector, you're able to connect to multiple sources, and you're able to get insights from that in real time. Or it could also be used by developers so that they can build applications using this single interface to connect to these multiple sources instead of creating multiple interfaces to connect each and different source. You'll be essentially using a single interface to build that application and connect to these multiple sources. So with HDP, hybrid data pipeline, you're able to connect to any data source, and it will let you connect to that using standard interfaces like OData, JDBC, and ODBC based on your preference. So coming to the next advantage with hybrid data pipeline is you are able to connect to data that is present anywhere, that is on premises or in the cloud. As we were discussing previously, one of the challenges that organizations have is data could be on premises and in the cloud, and bringing them together to get insights is always a challenge, because you'd have to have a way to get access to on-premises data, or even the data that is in private cloud, so that you're able to analyze this data in the cloud-based BI analytics applications. And hybrid data pipeline can help with that. It comes with a component called on-premises connector, which can be installed on the network where the data is residing, which is behind the firewall or even in the private cloud. And you don't have to open up any ports. The on-premises connector will help establish a connection to the hybrid data pipeline server that might be outside of the network where the data is residing. And you'll still be able to access the data that is behind the firewall or in the private cloud. And you'll be able to access the data in your cloud-based BI applications, or let's say you want to do data federation, or you want to access data from Salesforce using external objects. You can do that with this piece of component called on-premises connector. So essentially with hybrid data pipeline, we're able to connect to multiple data sources, and you're also able to connect to the data that is present anywhere. And with this technology, you'll be able to create a solution to unify the data in these data silos into a singular data warehouse, or you can bring them all together into your BI application and run your reporting for getting good analytics on your organizational data so that you can take better decisions. Apart from that, hybrid data pipeline also comes with features such as you'll be able to easily deploy hybrid data pipeline using Helm deployments on Kubernetes. It's a single click deployment, and you'll have hybrid data pipeline running in few minutes. And it also comes with enterprise-based authentications like single sign-on for OData, UI, and everything. So you're able to integrate with your existing identity providers and have that secure authentication into hybrid data pipeline to access data. It also comes with throttling. You could set throttling on your tenants so that you're making sure you provide a consistent delivery of performance to all of your end users without somebody taxing the system and degrading the performance for everyone. And especially if you're hosting the solution for your own customers, you could also white label hybrid data pipeline so that the interface is branded with your own company's logos and everything. Again, these are all very high-level features, and if you are interested in learning about the security and architecture of how hybrid data pipeline works, you can scan this link. I'll also paste the link in the chat for you to quickly go to the security statement. In this security statement, you'll be able to learn about what is the architecture of hybrid data pipeline, how we secure the data across multiple places, and how the data will be transferred securely from one end to other end. So feel free to scan this code or click the link in the chat for you to read through the security statement. And that ends the part of my presentation, and we could go into the question Q&A part of the webinar.
All right, Sai, yeah, great. That was wonderful presentation. I appreciate it. We have plenty of time for questions, which is great. Looks like we have 4 already in the queue, so we can get right to those. Let's start with the first one. Can you provide some examples of how existing organizations/customers use hybrid data pipeline?
Sure. So there are organizations that use hybrid data pipeline to connect to their data sources and do an ETL to their data warehouse. Those data sources are on premises and also in the cloud. So they use hybrid data pipeline to orchestrate that connections, and using an ETL tool, they move all of the data to the data warehouse. There are some other organizations that use hybrid data pipeline to connect their legacy systems with modern applications, enterprise applications like Salesforce. A lot of them have legacy data on premises, and they would want to get their customer data into Salesforce, and they use hybrid data pipeline to connect to their data sources on premises, and using OData that is generated by hybrid data pipeline, they integrate that into Salesforce, and from Salesforce, once the integration is complete, they're able to access their data that is on premises using hybrid data pipeline. And within this, if there are multiple sources of databases or data sources, they could combine all of them into a single OData connection, so that they're able to use a single connection to access multiple data sources. To give some more context here, again, Salesforce for this particular feature where you can connect the external data, they charge you a premium. So each and every connection, individual connection is gonna be an additional charge for you. With hybrid data pipeline, let's say you have a number of sources, you can combine all of them into one, and you can use a single connection to access all of the data that's that's in various places. There's other set of companies where they expose their data to their end users using hybrid data pipeline, which is on premises to their organization, so that their end users can use this data for BI and analytics usage using HDP, and their end users would use any of the JDBC, ODBC, or OData based on their preference. So these are some of the common use cases on how our customers solve their problems in
Okay, great. Those are great examples. Looks like we have another question coming in, and it is, does hybrid data pipeline provide real-time access to the data at any time you make a connection?
Yes, hybrid data pipeline does provide you with real-time access to data. We do not store any data in the solution itself. Anytime you want to get the data, we make an active connection, get the data and send it over to the client of your choice.
Okay, excellent. It looks like we have someone that is interested in trialing the hybrid data pipeline. The question is, what is the easiest way to try a hybrid data pipeline?
So we do have Docker containers. You can quickly spin up one and try out hybrid data pipeline in a few minutes. I would say that is the easiest one. And we're going to have Helm charts as well to deploy hybrid data pipeline in Kubernetes soon. So that's going to be another option to quickly try it out. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see, we have another one here. A question about native connectivity. In particular, it says, is there any performance impact in connecting to data sources in comparison with native connectivity?
So
I guess what they mean by native is the software that the software tool that they're using primarily, like a Microsoft or.
Yeah. So again, it depends on the deployment, where the server is deployed, where the database or data source is located, and where the client is located. But based on our internal tests, the overhead should be minimum. But the advantages that hybrid data pipeline offers, I think, are more valuable. Yeah, the performance overhead is actually it's not that impactful. Yeah,
not that big. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sai, that looks like all the questions that we had for today. Really appreciate your presentation and answering all the questions. To everyone on the call today, just want to remind you that this presentation will be, the recording will be sent to you at the information that you provided to all of us. So we appreciate everyone's time. We appreciate you taking a look at Progress Data Direct and Hybrid Data Pipeline. And with all that said, I wish everyone a great day. This concludes the webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.